Time for a new edition of Beyond the Arc right here on High School Cube News. Brian Chimino with you once again with Michael O'Brien of the Chicago Sun-Times. If you want to hear about the city tournament, check out our video last week we did before the quarterfinals for all the information on that. We're going to kind of ignore it this week because it is the dog days of February. Mike, you get to see teams and players you don't usually get to see. Friday, you took the trek up north to Palatine. You saw the undefeated Palatine-Fremd Vikings. What'd you think of Fremd as they knocked off Conant?
They're a real good team. You know, they got some size. Riley Glassman started a little slow. You know, I was checking him out for all area, but then he really did not disappoint. Came on, played well. Well, the Fremd folks have noticed that I dropped them in the rankings after seeing them, which, you know, I don't always like to drop a team this late in the season, especially not after a loss. But when I haven't seen a team, I reserve the right to move them wherever I want after I do finally see them. And it just took too long with Fremd. You know, I think they're a good team, but they're not a great team. You know, they don't have any big signature wins except for St. Viator. They just haven't played the schedule to deserve that high of a lofty ranking, I think.
They do have 2 games left, but like you said, they haven't beaten any ranked teams except for 1 or 2. But going undefeated is an impressive thing to do. You got to have consistency. You got to stay healthy.
Being undefeated is an amazingly difficult thing to do. I don't care what schedule you have or what conference. It is extremely rare. As Joe Henriksen pointed out the other day in the paper, we've had 2 teams in like the last 15 years. It's a major accomplishment for Fremd, especially if they can pull it off. No doubt about it. I just don't think they're one of the area's great teams.
Saturday was the Canelan shootout, Mike. You got to see Larkin and North Chicago go at it. Kind of seemed like that might have been Kendall McCullum's coming out party. We know how good he was, but he was really good against North Chicago.
Yeah, Larkin needed that. That's their big signature win. They'd fallen short in a couple of other games against the area's premier teams this year, so that was a huge, huge win for them. North Chicago, I mean, I'm the guy that had them ranked number 3 in the preseason. Obviously, I was all in with the Warhawks. They are so confusing. One half, they'll be horrible. And then the next half, they roar back from a 20-point deficit and, you know, almost win the game. It's just astounding. You know, the first half, they almost beat Curie, then they got killed in the second half. Then they're doing that against Larkin. You know, I just don't know what to think about this team if they're going to get their heads on straight in time to make a run in 3A.
Going head-to-head with the city tournament, we had the first Catholic League tournament since 1974, and of course, it's the semifinals everybody predicted, and we're talking about Fenwick versus De La Salle, as both those teams with minor upset over St. Rita for Fenwick, but the real upset was De La Salle knocking off Loyola.
Yeah, I mean, you must think I'm crazy, all the stuff I've talked about Loyola. You know, it was ugly. I mean, I don't know what's going on with them. Maybe this might be helpful to them. Sometimes it isn't real good to go unbeaten and have all that pressure. And I think the Catholic League learned a little bit about what these weird end-of-season tournaments are like. There are often upsets. The CPS has known this for a while.
And on Wednesday, the other semifinal will be the Mount Carmel Caravan versus St. Joseph's. We expect that.
Yeah, you know, both of these teams have great coaches. Both of them have a good amount of talent, and both of them are really primed for March. Look out for Mount Carmel. They're beating everybody in sight. David Nichols is one of the area's top players. He just keeps putting in 20-point games. And then Fenwick's got Scott Lindsay. From what it sounds like, he's back. And, you know, he's really contributing. And they were already a really good team without him. So Fenwick, you know, sky's the limit for them.
As the season has roared on, it kind of comes clear that no team has really played the schedule that the Stevenson Patriots have had. Another brutal weekend coming up. Friday at Lake Forest versus the Scouts. And this is a game that will probably decide the North Suburban Conference Lake Division.
Yeah, I would say to add to that thing, Young has. Young's played the toughest schedule in the country. But Stevenson, in our area, oh my goodness, it seems like every weekend they're playing 2 ranked teams, which they're doing again. You know, they got Lake Forest, which is, you know, a tough, gritty team. They join the rankings. They might be the hottest team in the area. They just keep beating good teams. And, you know, that's going to be a tough one. It's a conference game, no doubt about it. And then they've got the showdown with Simeon at Niles West in the City Suburban Showdown on Saturday. It's the rematch of the state title game. You know, in the state championship game, it was a veteran Simeon team with Jabari Parker and Jalen Tate and Kendrick Nunn against a very young, sophomore-laden Stevenson squad. Now we've got a Stevenson squad that's experienced. These guys all played in the state title game last year. They're a bunch of juniors, so they've got everything on their side in this. You have to like Stevenson in this game. But you wonder, eventually Simeon's going to knock off one of these great teams. They're coming close. Maybe this will be the day they can pull it off on Saturday.
And sticking with the McDonald City Suburban Showdown, the first game is the Lake Forest Scouts we just talked about, and they'll be facing number 4, the Marion Catholic Spartans. Mike, about a month ago, I would have thought Marion Catholic would probably win this game pretty easily, but you can't say that right now.
Yeah, Marion Catholic has some problem with size, and Evan Boudreau isn't the biggest guy in the world, you know, 6'7", 6'8". But man, he knows how to use it. He is so good in the post and so effective at just brutally scoring and rebounding in there. They're going to have a major issue with him. However, I do think Marion Catholic is the much better team. I think they're that loss to Stevenson has kind of taken Marion Catholic out of the conversation, and I think that's wrong. I think they're just as good as these other teams, and I like them still as a serious contender for the state championship.
And talking about the aforementioned Stevenson Patriots, check out Beth Long's MVP segment last week with point guard Jalen Brunson. And coming later in this week, MVP from Lake Forest, Beth Long talked with Evan Boudreau. And stick with High School Cube news this week as regional seedings and pairings are released in Class 3A and 4A, and we'll have all the stories about the possible matchups right here on the website. That'll do it for this edition of Beyond the Arc. For Michael O'Brien, I'm Brian Chimino. We'll see you next time.